Hey Internet, it's RJ. Welcome back. Thanks for tuning into this show today. Now, today's episode, of course, if you're watching on the day it comes out, it is Halloween, which means we are just about ready to turn the calendar over to November. But before we do, typical fashion, we must close the month with our typical Q&A. You know the deal, Riddler goes up, you drop your questions down below, and I just kind of read them off the phone here. So, of course, chapters 2 will be down below if you want to jump around. But we're talking about everything from, how to best churn a bank account, which cards are underrated. We're talking about if Hyatt will come out with a premium personal card to match Marriott and Hilton, all that and more. So without further ado, go ahead, press the subscribe button, and let's get to work. So with that, we are going to lead off here. No particular order. I just take from the order they come in. But we have Ganesh checking in. He says, hey, look, keep up the great work. Appreciate it, sir. Maybe something you can share with your viewers. I got solar installed through Tesla, and they do accept credit card payments if you call them. The project advisor tells me it has to be ACH transfer, but calling the billing department works. So now the question is, what credit cards do you recommend in case of some big expenses? He says it's about $25K, so, unfortunately, he's at $524K. So, that is a good tip. Solar's catching on. Solar, it's one of those, it's like an expensive add-on, but, I think it can be worth it if you run the numbers for yourself. So, I did not know that they were taking credit card. It kind of surprises me, honestly, but I appreciate the tip. And he goes on to say he did use the Amex business card. So, I think you're right. If you're looking for a big card to hit a bunch of spend with, you're probably going to be in the business space, right? Because, again, business cards, they usually require high spend because they're aimed at businesses. The first one comes to mind is what she said. The Amex Business Platinum, we talked about it maybe a month or two ago, so I don't know if the offer's still going on. But they had like an offer where you could phone in and you could get 250K MR points if you spent maybe, 30 grand, something like that. So, that would be a great card for that. Other than that, I think you're really looking at cards that, you could stack. You could get multiple Chase Ink cards or the Chase Ink Premier or U.S. Bank, leverage cards that are going to take, 75,000, 10,000 in spend to hit. I think you can get a few of those. So it's almost like whichever ones you don't have already. Or you could also say, hey, I want to get a bunch of Hilton free award nights maybe, like the new Marriott cards where I don't love them, but technically if you had the card, you put 15,000 to spend, you get a free award night. You could also look at it like that. But I think anything business related is going to be good because you're really looking at a very easy way, to your point, to hit a lot of spend. So I think that could be good as well. But thank you for the tip, sir. We appreciate it. All right, our man K. Roddy here. Question about churning bank bonuses. When reapplying after closing an account, is it best practice to use different email and or username if he's had mixed results? Well, I just asked him to ask this question, so I can do a shameless plug. He's talking about our second channel called Run on the Bank, where we talk about bank account bonuses, where you can make a lot of money and they play in very well with credit cards, so I'll link that down below for you. But really what he's saying is, part of it is churning. So you open the account, you get the bonus, then you shut it down, you get back in line. Now, usually what happens is, even if you close the account, your profile still stays open with the bank. So I could still go into Citi or Citizens or wherever I've closed accounts from, and I'm in there. There's just, maybe it'll show you a closed account so you can still get your records or what have you. So historically, I've used the same profile, again, same email address. I've gone back in. Sometimes you have to call in and get them to unlock it because they lock it. But normally I've done that. I have run into problems with neo or fintech banks where I couldn't reopen an account because I wanted to do a referral program. And after chatting with customer service, we'll use a different email and you are fine. But for the most part, for me, in my experience, with the main ones that we churn, which is your Citis, your PNCs, your Huntingtons, your Chases, Bank of America, being able to use the same profile hasn't been an issue. Again, I just like to make sure I'm PDFing the offer, especially if there's an offer code that I plug in. I like to screenshot that. So I haven't personally, I think it really comes down to how they're set up on the back end, but I try to use what I have, what I've already set up, where it makes it easier. All right, Leo checking in here. His brother, big fan of hotel premium cards offering high-level member status, like the Amex Marriott Brilliant offering platinum statuses. So his real question is, do you see Chase ever updating their Hyatt card to a more premium card offering Explorist or Globalist? He'd be very interested in it. They've had every opportunity, right? Because it's not, they had the Marriott line, so that they are not uncommon with how this works. So I don't think they're gonna do it because like I mean, if they would have wanted to do it, they probably would have done it by now, honestly. Because I mean, the Hyatt card's at $95, so there's clearly room to go up. I think Hyatt seems to be one of the hotel chains that's more protective of its status. I also don't know the relationship. This might be a Hyatt thing because I don't think Chase would be mad about putting more cards in the portfolio. Because again, Chase doesn't really care that much. Like the more options Chase has, the better usually. It's not really like having the card sitting. It's not like product sitting on a shelf where if no one wants it, it goes bad. So I would think Chase would be all for it. I would actually go a little bit further and say they should add a Hyatt status to the Sapphire Reserve as well, and then they should punch up a level or two with the Hyatt cards. I think they should. I don't think they will, though, because, again, they could have done it at any time now. Clearly, I think Chase has something to do with the conversations like Marriott and the statuses and things like that. But no, they should definitely, because there's room for a $250 card. There's probably room for like a $500 card, throwing in a reward cert in there, something like that. Model them kind of similar to IHG where you get a ton of multipliers, but no, I don't think they would just because they haven't done it yet, but I think they should. So yeah, there's that. Nick, thoughts on Dave Ramsey's new debit card bank account, Gazelle? I didn't know he had one until you dropped the comment. I kind of skim through these and I just make sure I know what everyone's talking about, so I had to look it up. Long story short of it is he's not offering a sign-up bonus, so I have no interest in the account, and no one should sign up until he offers you at least $100 to do so. Even Susie Orman offers you $100 to do her account, her savings account. Overall, though, I think it's fine. I mean, it's like a rewards debit card. I think it makes perfect sense for someone like him who's so big, has like a massive, following and company, because he is really a company, to put their name on an account. I didn't see anything that made me think it was any more or less special than other accounts. It's a rewards earning debit card. We've seen some of those before. I didn't go too much into it, but I mean, if he offers a sign-up bonus, I will happily sign up and I will happily make a video about it on the other channel. But until that happens, I would personally pass. So Jason Miller here. I'm at 324. Would you recommend going for CSP to complete the trifecta before getting locked out of Chase? Even though I don't travel, or go for Amex City, primarily Team Cashback. We're Team Cashback on this channel, so you're amongst friends. I would say if you can swing the spend, go for the Chase Ink cards right now, because I think at the time of taping this, the Ink bonuses are elevated, and I think they're also available online now. When it first happened, they were just available in branch, but you're talking about like 90,000 ultimate reward points for like 6,000 in spend, which is more points and less spend than the normal offers. Normally it's like 750 for 7,500 in spend. So if you can swing one of those and you're being cash back and you're 524, cognizant or aware, I would go for the Ink cards. I would definitely pick up the Ink cash first. Work your way through that one in 3 months. If the other one's still elevated, even if the other one's not still elevated, I would probably still get it. I think 750 is a decent enough offer for me. I would do those two. Then take a look at what else they have in business land. They're still the preferred and the premier. Again, those are annual fee cards. You might not want to keep them. But again, to answer your question, I do think the Sapphire Preferred would be worth it even for cash back. If you travel just one time, you're making that annual fee $45 if you use the hotel credit. And still, if it's like 80,000 points, then you're talking about $800 at 1 cent a point. Plus they pay yourself back. That could help you as well, get a slightly higher valuation. So yeah, I think it would be worth it. I would just go Ink since they have the higher bonuses first if you can swing it. Baby Vilch, been a minute. Welcome back, sir. Said, hey, RJ, I'm curious on what you think about the Chase Ink. We just talked about this. I'm curious on what you just think about the Chase Ink Cash 90K in branch business offer that is out. Do you think it will open the public in the future? So yeah, I have the power of telling the future. Now, I just jumped on the Doctor of Credit, and I do believe there was a post that said these are available online now. I'll put it on screen, or there will be nothing on screen, and I'll just be wrong. But either way, I do think it's worth a trip in branch. So he was trying to refer his sister, but my referral only shows 75. Should we wait? I might have a referral to this. Maybe I should plug my referral link down below. That's a good tip. I'll see. Check down below. There might be a link. Anyways, so he can't get a link. So I think if you check now, you might be able to get one because I think they're now public. But if you can't, then I would send her in branch, or she should wait. She should just go in branch. I'd be losing about 20K referral points. I mean, I think for your sister, man, if she just needs the card right now, she can hit it. I would tell her to go get the bigger bonus personally. I look at referrals as a little bit of an add-on, but I do think us in the community, we have a right, we have an obligation to make sure the people we're educating about credit cards get the best offer for them. And if we can pick something up for it, by all means, great. But I don't think you can do your sister like that because it's like significantly less spend and significantly more points. Yes, opportunity costs 20,000 referral points. I would say get sister the best offer. But double check because I think they're available online now. So there you go, sir. All right, curmudgeon, here we go. What are the odds of Chase doing a refresh on the Freedom cards? The duplicate 3% categories on both cards and the base 1.5 on the unlimited are right for change. There's a lot of overlap between the two. They do have it set up very nicely where you can have both of them. They are largely the same card. A refresh, I don't know if they're going to refresh them. I think they're fine with where they're at, and they do offer like a lot on both cards. They were some of the strongest no annual fee cards. I've often wondered, will they add a third card or a different option? Something to kind of slide in between a City Custom Cash and like U.S. banks, like where you get to pick the category. I think they could do something like that down the road if they want to stay pretty aggressive, but they're already so aggressive. So I don't know what else they would change on them, though, is the kind of the thing. I don't think they'll ever punch up past 1.5% because their goal is always to push you to the Sapphire or the Sapphire line reserve or preferred, which will then bring up your redemption, to 2.5 or whatever the math comes out to be, depending on the multiplier you're adjusting. So I don't think they'll do that. I think they're probably comfortable where they're at with the Freedom line, but I could see them potentially slotting in another card over time. I think they almost go. I think Chase almost is, as far as aggressiveness goes, I think they go out and they get such a big lead on everyone else, mainly Citi and U.S. Bank. I think Amex is playing a different game. Then when people start to close the gap a little bit, then they say, okay, let's release something else, right? So I think they're just kind of waiting for people to catch up. There's not really like a need right now because even, yes, U.S. Bank cards are good cash back, but they're restrictive and they're annoying and they're hard to get. Citi is good. I like them, but they still lack a little bit of a punch. So yeah, if I'm Chase, I'm kind of just waiting until the gap closes before I push another release out. At least that's my thought anyways. Robbie, here we go. Do you think Capital One will have a new travel card? The X would be more on like the travel, like 3 or 4 airlines and hotels directly with the airline and hotel companies. So I don't think they'll make a new one. I think they got to focus on their existing lineup. I think the venture card still exists and it does get passes to like the lounges they have. I think that needs a refresh. That reminds me of Sapphire Preferred before its original refresh. It's kind of just there, but it doesn't really do a whole heck of a lot. They don't need to make new cards yet. They need to refresh that one. I also think they need to clarify for the masses, hey, you can partner a lot of these cards with a Saver Rewards card. The no annual fee Saver card's a really good card that doesn't really get talked about that much. Because Capital One makes it difficult. I think they should do stuff like that. If they want, they also have to sort out their target demographic because they existed originally to go after people in the sub to subprime market, which is fine. It's not a shot at anyone. But when you start offering different products that punch more upstream, I think they need to figure out how do I best serve both demographics, right? Ideally, you want to be able to bring the subprime up to prime and then have more stuff to sell them. That was always my biggest criticism of Capital One is their customer base would outgrow them. And now I think they have products that people would want, but no one knows how to get them. Can I product change? Can I not product change? Do these points pool? Do they not pool? So I think really if they just focus on their existing lineup, did some refreshes and some tweaks, they would be fine. I wouldn't feel comfortable having them bring out a $500 card, $700 card until they figure out that. Because I talked to way too many people in the comments that are like, I heard this from Capital One, or I heard that from Capital One, and I believe all of you, but you're getting told different things. So who's to say, what the truth is, right? They need to do something like that before they try to go any further, in my opinion. You want a strong foundation before you try to branch out further. I think that answers your question. They got to get their house in order. Inevitable. Here we go. Friend of the show. What will you be buying on November 5th? Bank of America's plus 2% more rewards day. I don't have a Bank of America card, but I did think about it. I thought about getting like one of the business ones. I was like, when we talked about it last Sunday, I was like, I think I can get it in time. I didn't end up doing it, but I think I think the best way to do it would be to, if you have the customized cash version, I mean, obviously whatever you have maxed out or picked as your 3% category, hammer that hard. Or if you have like the unlimited, I think I'm just turning around trying to prepay a bunch of stuff. I'm a gift card person. Things like that. I don't think you can do stuff like, book trips that far out that won't necessarily post to your account, maybe. I think they're looking out for stuff like that. But, I mean, that would be my strategy. Look around very quickly. What can I prepay? Can I find a Visa reloadable gift card sale going on November 5th? I know it's a very specific day, but that could happen as well, potentially. But I'm looking to lock it in like that. But overall, I think it's actually a pretty good promotion. It shows us that Bank of America is still kicking. So since I don't have a card, chime in down below. If you have a Bank of America card, what are you going to be buying on November 5th? Because I do think it is a good promotion. All right, Stanley Martin Jr. back in the rotation here. Besides Visa, MasterCard, Discover, and Amex, what other cheaper payment networks could merchants run payments through? Asked because of the proposed Credit Card Competition Act. Well, I think that is the problem. Like, I don't know, because even if you go through like a Square or something like that, right, that wants to cut as well, they still have to route it back to like the Visa network. And what they're arguing is that like, because it's a Visa card, it can only run through the Visa network. So what they want with credit card competition is say, well, with MasterCard's cheaper, I want to be able to run my cards through all of MasterCard's network. Or to your point, I want a somewhat objective payment network to show up, and be there, but I don't have that option. So I could be wrong on this one. I just don't know off the top of my head that there are other payment network options. I think there's a difference between the payment processor, right, which would be like a Square or that, whoever's doing the point of sale machine, but that still feeds back to, the payment network that hits the bank, back to the payment processor, and improves the transaction in real time. I think I have a video on the payment network I can drop down below for you, but that's what they want. You're dead on with what they want. I just don't think there are any other options right now. That's why they call them monopolistic. But I'm sure someone else would love to fill the space if they could. The problem is right now you just can't run a Visa card through anything else to mine. I'm sure you could. I mean, I don't, but yeah, I don't know how that works. So I think I answered your question, but good thought though. Sorry if I didn't. They hate me. Thoughts on changes to the Southwest Airlines Companion Pass points requirement? I think it's one of those things that gets ignored a little bit. The Southwest stuff. We'll put it on screen for you here. But basically the changes, they increased the points. If you didn't have one of the co-branded cards, they increased the amount of points you had. It wasn't by a ton. It was like, 10, 20,000, something like that. And I think that goes into effect, next year? So I think they're giving, if you have a card, they're simply giving you 10,000, whatever it is, points to offset the increase. I mean, so it's clearly, I think it's just a push to get people farther into the ecosystem and sell them credit cards. You probably have a bunch of people who take massive advantage of these companion passes and get all the mileage they can out of it. So I don't think it's the worst thing in the world. Because again, I'll put it on screen, but because they have like lower annual fee cards, so I guess it could be fine, depending on which kind of card they're pushing you up to. But I think it's one of those. It's probably still fine. It just seems like they're trying to sell more credit cards. 10,000 points doesn't seem like that much. Probably enough to push someone over. Like, okay, if I'm using this, I'll get the card, and that will cover my 10,000 points. I mean, I don't really cover Southwest too much. I don't think I've ever flown them, but I think it probably, if you use Companion Pass now and you get mileage out of it, then it could be worth looking at one of the cards, I think, which is their overall goal. Because 10,000 points isn't enough to really turn people off too much. It's not enough to push out people who are flying so frequently. 10,000 points is nothing. It's really enough to grab a good middle tranche of your population and try to push them over to getting the card. I think that's what they're trying to do. So Matt here, next up, said, RJ, I've been wondering why there are no co-branded cards for rental car companies. Every other part of the travel space has a card. Yeah, that's a good thought, actually. I mean, I've never really thought of that. The rental car companies seem fine partnering with every travel card to offer a level of status on those travel cards, but they don't have any for themselves. Yeah, that's a good point. I think it would still be worth it to some degree. I mean, they might have missed their biggest window, right? Because now, most people are just going to, Uber around, or maybe you get a Metro card or the L or whatever, depending on, what kind of city you're in. But I still think there's opportunity for it. Yeah, I don't know the answer why there isn't. That's good. I've never thought of that, though. That is a good thought. Because, again, you could, it would be some level of status, some high multipliers on probably gas, and obviously renting from them, some kind of like priority check-in, something like that. I don't know how many people are renting cars anymore. They could have just missed their boat, but that is a good point. They don't have, even like Amtrak has cars, they don't have any. So I don't have an answer for you. That is a good point. I've never thought of that before. So let me know down below who you want, which rental car company you'd want to have a card, or what they would, or maybe like someone like a Turo that allows you to rent cars from other people. I could see them being new-ish enough, techy enough to get a card. It's not like an enterprise like you're talking about, but I could see in a few years when Turo matures a little bit more, I could see them getting some type of credit card like that. Because then you also have the aspect of rentals when you travel versus rentals just for fun, right? If you want to rent a sports car or something from someone, I could see someone like that doing it. But I wonder if the rental car companies like missed the bulk of their window. I don't know. But I mean, you still have like corporate people flying, so maybe it's probably still some room in there for that. QN, I'm checking in with the all-black avatar circle there. I like that touch. So the bulk of consumer spendings are on grocery, dining, gas, and travel. What are the two best credit card combos you would come up with for each of the four major banks? Well, I mean, I think Capital One's not that bad because you're talking about the Venture X and you're probably talking about the Saver Reward. Not the Andy. The $95 Saver card is silly. It's not really worth it. But the Venture X and the Saver card would be the good combination there. Citi, well, I mean, you said gas, dining, and so, I mean, you'd have to go with the Citi Premier card. I still think the $95 is tough, but you have to do that. Then your option is to either go with one of the travel cards for airlines, or you wouldn't do the custom cash because it's too limiting to your question, right? Because you're only getting one category at 5 and everything else at 1. You could run the double cash in there. Or maybe it's actually the Citi Rewards card. That's kind of a sleeper card we don't talk about too much. So if you were leaning travel, then you want the American Airlines cards. If not, then I think you just throw in the double cash, and that because the Premier does give. Well, the Premier gives you travel too, so I guess I take that back. Premier, double cash, Amex. So many options. I think if you want to go cash, I think your Blue Cash preferred still. I don't love it because of the annual fee, but it's still a fan favorite. And then probably the Blue Business Cash as well for the 2% catch-all there. You can maybe employ a gift card strategy. And then Chase. Chase is actually the most difficult, believe it or not, because Chase relies so heavily on the Freedom and the rotating quarterly categories. Like, they don't really talk about it that much, but you could go... It's probably Freedom... I'd say Freedom Unlimited, because you still have your drugstores. You have 1.5 on everything else. You do have travel if you go through the portal. If you want groceries, the closest you can get is the Sapphire Preferred, but it has to be online groceries. So that's kind of tough there, but that would probably be it. I would say, yeah, Chase is actually the issue there. So let me know your combinations down below, but I think that's what I would go with if I only got 2. Yeah, I think that's what I would go with. Red Sox checking in. He says, hey, RJ, what do you think is the most underrated credit card on the market that deserves more love or press? Can be either a business. I mean, for this guy to ask a real credit card question, you know the midterms must be getting tough to him. I appreciate it, though. So here we have it. I mean, from the biggest guys, like I think we know all the cards from the biggest issuers. I think the thing that ends up being missed is all the smaller regional banks. So for me, right now, the biggest underrated card was the Huntington Business Voice card. Now, it's regional, but if you are traveling to a state with a Huntington and they're like a decent footprint, regional, like having maybe a third of the country at least, then, I think it's worth stopping in and applying for one. PNC Cash Rewards is another one. That's 4% back on gas. The Huntington, by the way, is like a choose-your-own adventure. You pick one category a quarter, up to $7,000 and spend it 4x back. So I think it's those. I think everyone's really versed on the cities and the U.S. banks and things like that. But I think the reason we have that playlist where we take a look at random banks, and it's like 50 videos deep, is because there's going to be something there for someone. You can either watch the video for entertainment, or you can watch them like, oh, that's the missing card that I needed. Now I know where it's at and how I can use it. So I think those two cards for me are pretty underrated. I have one of them. I would like to get the PNC at some point. But again, just don't sleep on the regional cards. But yeah, everyone else kind of knows. I think we know. I guess moving into the last question, I would say the Saver card. For mainstream, I think the Saver card is still underrated. Again, not the $95 one, but the regular, no annual fee, 3x back on a lot of stuff. I think that is an underrated card. Mr. Rojas, here we go. Out of 524 jail. Enjoy your freedom, sir. Question is, do I wait for my accounts to age from 2 years to 2 years plus a month to be on the safe side? Also planning on a Chase business card first. How much time after applying for the business card? I think it's... if it was me, I'd probably do 2 years and a month just to be safe, but I think technically they should be able to intake the exact date, because I usually look at my either Credit Karma or Mint, and like it should show them the exact date the account was open. So I would say, here's what I would do, because you say business card. We've talked about the Chase cards a lot today. I would say keep your eye on the Chase business and the elevated offers, because it's perfect timing, right? They just came out, so we should have a few weeks of them. I mean, they ran the Freedom and the Sapphire bonuses for quite some time, but I would keep your eye on those. If it's looking good, like they're still going to stay, then I would wait the extra month just to be safe. But it looks like they're going to go away, then I would roll the dice and try to get it, because I do think they're that good of elevated offers. So I would say that. I think you say, how much time after applying for business card should I wait to apply for Freedom Flex? I have a video on the Chase rules. I'll put it down below, but I think like if you put 30 days in between them, you should be good. I think I did an Ink Cash, and then like 30 days close to that later, I did an Ink Unlimited card maybe like a year or two ago. So I think 30 days should be fine, in between for 2 cards, especially on the business and personal side. I think that should be good. But perfect timing, though. All right, here we go. Last one. Phoenix here. How do you think the new Shoppers Plus card from U.S. Bank compares to the Amex Blue Cash Preferred? This is actually a funny question to close out on, because I argue it's almost the same card. I'll put them both up. Like, yeah, they're a little bit different, but the math breaks out the same. The real difference is that one, U.S. Bank is tougher on redemptions. I think it's $25 increments, but I've had people tell me it's only a minimum of $25 to redeem and not in increments anymore, which would be helpful. But then it's only, as a statement credit, gift cards, or to a U.S. Bank account, versus Amex lets you kind of cash out anything. Amex will also pool your cash back together, which is helpful, where U.S. Bank won't. I think this is a classic cliche of devil's in the details. The cards themselves, to me, are the exact same thing. Yes, they're focused on different things, groceries versus retail, stuff like that. But it's almost funny to me that, U.S. Bank got much more backlash for their version of it and having a $95 annual fee. But people historically love the BCP card. Like, this is one of Amex's best cash back cards, and it is. But I personally feel the same about both of them. It's like, I like them both. I wish they didn't have a $95 annual fee. I think Amex is easier because it has less redemption restrictions overall, and I think that's catching up to U.S. Bank. I want the Altitude Go, but I get annoyed that I still have $16 on my triple cash that I can't get out, even though I have a Cash Plus, but I can't combine them. I don't have a U.S. Bank account all the time because I churn them. These limitations are very annoying, and quite frankly, I think they're very embarrassing for a top 5 bank. Like, U.S. Bancorp is the 5th largest bank in the country, I think. Remember, Amex has a bank, but banking, they're not up in the Power 5 of banking yet, but probably one day, maybe. I think it's pretty embarrassing, especially when we've seen Citi make the same changes. So I think that, to me, is the biggest weakness of the cash rewards card from U.S. Bank. I could see it. The math checks out on it. We have a full video I can link down below for everyone. But when you layer on the annual fee, which really makes the multipliers like 4.4%, and then all the nonsense I have to go through and the restrictions, I'm like, it's not even worth it. Versus Amex, I think you could get that. You partner it with their 2% cash card from the business side. And I think you're kind of in business if you want to do the Amex cash back side. But overall, I think they're basically the same model. It's just funny to me that we crushed one, but we love the other one. But of course, I'm not known for being Team Amex, so you let me know if I'm missing something down below. But anyways, I think we hit everybody. We went really long on this one, as we always do, but hope everyone got a thorough answer. So I will simply close it here, since it is Halloween when this goes live. Of course, have a happy Halloween. Maybe you guys dressed up as like the luxury black card or something. Like, the amount of people who would get that costume would be hilarious to me, but that would be a great credit card costume. Anyways, guys, if you like this one, of course, drop me a thumbs up. If you found it particularly interesting, consider subscribing to the show, because we're posting content here every Monday, Wednesday, and Friday. Of course, right back here every Sunday with all the news you can use in the week that was in credit and finance. As always, thank you so much for watching. Have a happy Halloween, and I will see you guys in the next one.